Usually it takes a second or two. All right, perfect, perfect, perfect. Welcome back, welcome back. I think this is the fourth week now we're being consistent with these YouTube lives. Um, I enjoy doing them. I enjoy talking about LinkedIn content, in a very very long format. Now, please do let me know if the audio is working. Please do let me know if there's any disturbances. But I do apologize for one thing. There is landscaping being done outside, so there is a bit of a, you know, an annoying sound behind you. But it was either today or tomorrow that I was gonna do this YouTube live. But I thought to myself, you know what, I'm already, in the mindset of talking about LinkedIn content. I might as well just go ahead with it. Now, if you're someone that's in the chat, please do let me know if the microphone is working. Um, Also, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. We gained one subscriber this last week, so it's very, very encouraging that, these YouTube lives really do go out to people who do find value in them. So, what we're going to be talking about today is quite simple, and I'm going to keep it very, very short. I want to talk about why your LinkedIn content isn't converting. Now, for one of many reasons why your LinkedIn content isn't converting, first, let me not ruin the surprise. What I want to do is I want to actually do a LinkedIn live, not necessarily on YouTube, but on LinkedIn, where I talk about how to structure your content. So if that's something that you're open to, please do let me know, and I will add you to the waiting list because I do have a few templates that I do want to share with some of the people who are joining me on that LinkedIn live. Now, in terms of what I want to talk about today, like I said, I wanted to talk about why your LinkedIn content isn't converting. Now, your LinkedIn content isn't converting for one of many reasons, but I will stick with the first reason, and the first reason being you are not connected with the right people. See, one of the biggest problems with people on LinkedIn, especially if you're a life coach or a founder, is that you don't understand LinkedIn content to its foundation. So you think to yourself, maybe a few growth hacks could help my content elevate, or a few growth hacks could help my content to really, really take off in terms of engagement, in terms of likes, comments, and people following you. And one of the things that I will tell you is that your LinkedIn content isn't getting to those people that you think should be receiving your content because you're connected with the wrong people. And I'll give you a perfect example. One of the things that I did was when I first started LinkedIn, and I wasn't aware of this, was that I was connecting with a lot of people who are life coaches because they 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 fit the demographic of the ideal client that I would work with. But the problem with that was they're not the type of people to engage with my content. So it was a bit of a double-edged sword because these are the type of people I work with, but they're not the type of people who engage with my content. As much as the content is tailored for them and the content is created for them. So what I did was before I started connecting with a lot of life coaches was I used to connect with a lot of people in marketing, a lot of ghostwriters, a lot of content writers, a lot of content strategists, people who were very, very good at creating content and were very, very good at talking about content. And I'd engage with their content, to, see what they talk about on a daily basis. And they'd also engage with my content, and my content would really, really take off. And that was very, very, that was a eye-opening thing when I look back on it. And it wasn't so long ago when I look back on it when I found out that the people who are more receptive to your content are the people in your niche, not necessarily the people that you are targeting. So for example, if you're someone that's in real estate, it's very, very difficult for someone in marketing to resonate with your content because they're not in that niche. So as much as maybe you are a real estate agent and you connect, sorry, my voice is caving in. So for example, I don't necessarily want to confuse you here. What I'm basically saying is if you're someone that's a real estate agent and you're targeting home buyers, but your connections are filled with people in marketing, your content is going out to the wrong people. And that is a very, very bad thing because then your tanks, and the perceived authority that you have about what you talk about in terms of if you talk about real estate and you talk about how what home buyers should look out for, but your content isn't necessarily getting any views, it's not necessarily getting any likes, comments, and you're not necessarily starting any conversations in the DMs because of the content. So it's a very, very frustrating place to be in, and I don't encourage you, and I do encourage you actually to start cleaning out your network a bit. See who you're connected with. Do they fit the ideal persona, or the ideal content persona of the person that you're targeting? So for example, like I said, if you're in real estate, you don't have a connection, you don't have your network filled with people in marketing if you're targeting home buyers. Now, it's very, very difficult to obviously connect with a home buyer because you don't know who is a home buyer. You don't just go on LinkedIn and search someone in need of a home. What I would advise you to do is start cleaning out your network a bit, start connecting with more people in real estate, because the people who like their content are the people who are interested in buying a home. Because I don't necessarily think anyone would be interested in liking content about real estate if they weren't interested in buying a home or learning more about home owning or any of those sort of things. So don't connect with people who don't necessarily resonate with your content or have nothing of value to add unless if they know you personally. So clean out your network before you start posting content. And I do encourage you not to necessarily implement any of these growth hacks, because you're implementing these growth hacks on a very, very on the wrong platform. Well, not necessarily the wrong platform, but on the wrong foundation, if I might say. Because if you're connected with the right people and the right people are seeing your content, it's a lot easier to start implementing these growth hacks. But the problem starts for most people when they start implementing these growth hacks, but they're not connected with the right people. Your content isn't going out to the right people, nor are the right people seeing your content, nor they're commenting, because comments also lead to conversations in the DMs, which is a very, very important part of selling in your content. Having conversations in the comment section. If there's a need or a desire to fix a problem, then you can take the conversation with that person into the DMs, where you can now start pinpointing what the problem is, and if there's an ideal fit for you to help them, or if they are interested in buying your service. So be very, very strategic about who you're connected with. Do not start posting content. Do not start posting 5 or 6 times a week, engaging for hours and hours and hours, and thinking to yourself, well, why isn't my content necessarily taking off? It's because you're connected with the wrong people. Now, I actually read a post about this. Um, I don't know if you want me to go over it, but I do think that LinkedIn is now prioritizing a lot of. Let me repeat that because I want you to understand where I'm coming from with this. So one of the things that LinkedIn has now done more recently is they're now starting to sort of, what's the word? LinkedIn is sort of targeting a lot of people who are small creators in terms of the content that you're posting. So it's very, very important that you also engage with the right people. You don't necessarily just want to engage with anyone. So it's very, very important that you're engaging with the right people and your content is going out to the right people. And I don't want to go any further without going more in depth on this post. So this post was by Aisha Amir. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. So basically, was she last month she jumped on a call with someone who worked with Samsung, Nvidia, and Asus. All that experience and all these incredible stories, but his personal brand wasn't reflecting it. So this person that she was talking to had 38,000 followers, had solid content, solid insights, and yet the right people weren't seeing his content. So the problem here wasn't necessarily the content, because the content was good, it was the network. Because LinkedIn's distribution is now network weight, not content weight. So what that essentially means is LinkedIn's con- LinkedIn is now LinkedIn is now putting out your content to people who are in your network, and they're putting out your content to people who are, your third degree connections, but your content all obviously goes out to first degree connections. So with this, your content is now going out to people who are in your network, not necessarily just people who find your content valuable. It's a very, very complex thing to sort of explain, if you want me to re-explain this, I could. So let me just repeat this again because I don't want to confuse you any further. LinkedIn's distribution in terms of your content isn't going out to the people who find your content valuable because they just saw your post. Your content is going out to the people in your network, the people you're connected to. So if you're connected to the wrong person or you're connected to someone who is inactive, so that they're not on LinkedIn so they're not on LinkedIn maybe for a week or two, even 3 or 4 weeks, that means your content isn't necessarily gonna get any likes or engagements because the content is going out to them, but they're not engaging, nor are they liking or commenting on your post. So this is very, very correct. Your LinkedIn content is now network weight and not content weight. So no one is actually liking your content because your content is actually valuable. Your content is going out to people who are actually in your connection in your network connections or whatever. So, and she talked about even if your content is brilliant, so sorry. So even if your content is brilliant and you are putting out good content, if your content isn't going out to the right person, then you have a very, very big problem because then your content will sort of go out to people who are inactive on the platform, people who are not necessarily interested in what you talk about, and that's a very, very big no because then LinkedIn takes it sorry. Because then LinkedIn takes it as, your content isn't necessarily valuable, so that's a very, very big problem. So I do apologize, my voice is caving in this. I'm doing this live in a very, very early morning. So if you have any questions, please do let me know in the comments. I started on a high, but I sort of went downhill and I'm not happy about that. So it's very, very important that your content goes out to the right people. So it doesn't really matter if you have 30,000 followers and you post very, very good content, you have very, very great visuals, and you engage with a lot of people, and you do the right things, but your content isn't going out to the right people for one of many reasons, and one of those reasons being you're not connected with the right people because your content is network weight in terms of LinkedIn's distribution. So it goes out, your content goes out to people in your network, not necessarily people who just see your content on the feed. Although you do get one or two people who do find your content on the feed, but usually your content goes out to people who are in your network. So it's very, very important that you're connected to people who are active on the platform, who fit your ideal content persona, basically meaning if you're someone that's in real estate, connect with people in real estate. Although you're targeting someone who's a home buyer, they're not necessarily a real estate agent, but put your content out there to people who are real estate agents because they're more likely to engage with their content than someone who's in marketing, someone in a different industry, if I might say. And I do apologize. I think the landscaping guy is coming around this side, so the noise is going to be a bit louder. Um, so so basically I did give you a step-by-step plan on how you can fix this, but if you want me to help you fix this, so basically here's how you can fix this problem. So if your content is going out to the wrong people and you're not necessarily connected with the right people, I do encourage you to just take an hour a day, just disconnecting with a lot of people you find that haven't necessarily been, engaging with your content. People who aren't necessarily active on the platform, just remove them as connections, remove them as remove them as people that you follow, because then you also find their content on the feed, and it's not necessarily a good fit because then if you're viewing their content and your content doesn't fit what you talk about and your content doesn't fit what they talk about, then it's not necessarily a good fit. So if your content isn't necessarily beneficial to them, then their content isn't necessarily beneficial to you. So disconnect with a lot of people who are inactive on the platform, remove them as people that you follow, and start talking to people who are interested in your content. And it all starts with the very people that engage with your content the minute that you stepped on LinkedIn for the very, very first time. So A lot of people want the magic 1,000 followers or the magic 10,000 followers or the magic 100,000 followers, but it all starts with the very few people who engage with your content in the very, very beginning. And, and it goes into one of the things that I had a conversation about in my head, a couple days ago when I talked about, while it was a conversation between me and myself, it was a conversation about how your content for one of many reasons isn't necessarily there to sell, it's there to build an audience. Because it's very, very difficult to sell in your content for one of many reasons as well. Because if you're selling in your content, you come across as someone who's salesy and people don't engage with your content. If what you sell, if you're selling in your content and your content is free, then it comes across as you're someone who's interested more in money than educating your audience or building an audience or you know, coming across as someone who's actually genuinely helpful. So it's very, very, I would encourage you not to sell in your content unless maybe it's one post a week, which I usually encourage because I post about 5 times a week, two educational posts, two promotional posts. One I promote my newsletter and the other I promote my service. So you can sell in your content, but I wouldn't encourage you to sell in your content each and every other post, which a lot of life coaches do. I see a lot of life coaches when I go onto their LinkedIn. One of the things that I see a lot is that whenever they post their content, they usually show these workshops that they're doing, and you might see a post on a Monday, a post on a Tuesday, a post on a Wednesday, and it's the same thing, this workshop that they're pushing, which is fine, but you're turning a lot of people away. Where's the content where you're educating your audience about what you do? Where's the content where you are, storytelling about your life, storytelling about, your recent experiences in life, you know, what you took as a lesson, what might have worked for you, what might have not worked for you. Many of those things that you're leaving out in your content, which are quite literally important. So, I went on a tangent. So it's very, very important that your content goes out to the right people, because, like I said, your content doesn't necessarily go out to people who just find you on the feed. Your content goes out to people who are in your network. So it's very, very important that you're connected with the right people. Also, you need to give LinkedIn a lot of consistent variables, and what I mean by that is giving LinkedIn as many consistent variables basically means if you're someone that's posting a lot of content, you need to be very, very strategic about how you post that content. So if you're posting 5 times a week, you need to post at least five times a week for at least 6 months, 6 to 12 months. And you need to have a consistent time zone. So if you're posting at 7 a.m. in the morning, South African Standard Time, or 7 a.m., GMT or UCT. If you're posting at that time zone, be very, very consistent for at least 6 to 12 months. Sorry, I think they're coming around now. So let me just give them an opportunity. Alright, it's a lot better now. One of the things that I do encourage you to do is if you're going to rebuild your network, at least do it for at least 2 to 3 weeks so that LinkedIn knows that you're being consistent with, changing your network and changing who your content goes out to. So give LinkedIn as many consistent variables. How many times you post a week, the time zone that you post in, the type of content that you post, the way that you comment and engage with people needs to be consistent. And also with rebuilding your network, be very, very consistent. And what I mean by rebuilding your network and being consistent, basically what I mean is start don't necessarily find yourself in a position where you're cleaning out your network and you And let's say, for example, you're connected with a lot of content writers, a lot of ghostwriters, a lot of content strategists, people in marketing, people in content marketing, if I might say, but you're in real estate. Don't find yourself removing those people as connections, and then another week maybe you connect with three or four people, in content marketing, because then it defeats the purpose. If you want to remove those people as connections, remove them completely. And also, I might stress to you that if you're posting a lot of content, I want you to start doubling down on the type of content that you're posting. Because one of the many things that I see on LinkedIn is that a lot of people change how they post their content, and it affects the people that are reading your content. So whenever someone views your profile, they create an image of who you are in their mind, and you don't necessarily want to change that. So be very, very consistent with the type of content that you're posting. Use the same visuals, not necessarily the same content post, but use like the same color scheme, use the same type of writing formats, and keep it very, very consistent. So without being boring for being boring actually. So be very, very strategic about how you put your content, and well, how you distribute your content. um is there anything else I haven't covered? Mm, yeah, I think I've covered everything in terms of how to redistribute your content, and how to get your content out to the right people. So now what I do want to talk about is how to sell in the DMs. Now, I won't necessarily give you a step-by-step plan on how to sell in the DMs. I'm just going to go through what I usually do, and what type of things that I find quite valuable whenever I put out a lot of content and I reach out to a lot of people. So one of the things that I will encourage you to do is, whenever you're putting out your content and you're reaching out to a lot of people, I do encourage you, or I do implore you, not to turn away someone who doesn't have money. I'll repeat that again. I do encourage you, and I do implore you not to turn away someone who doesn't have money. So the reason I say that is because a lot of people on LinkedIn, well, not necessarily life coaches or founders, because I don't necessarily know what they usually say in the DMs, but for a lot of people who are content writers, and a lot of ghostwriters, and a lot of content strategists, is that they usually have a paid service like any other person on LinkedIn. And whenever I have conversations with them, and they tell me that I turned this prospect away because they didn't have money, that is a very, very big mistake, because you're leaving an opportunity on the table. And what I mean by that is, when someone tells you that they don't have money for your service, it doesn't mean just turn them away. It's an opportunity to take something else. So what I mean by that is, if they don't have money, then help them for free, and then ask for a testimonial. But also document the journey of helping them, so you can do a mini documentary helping them go from X, Y, and Z, depending on the problem that you're solving. And then you can put it out on YouTube. You also get a testimonial, which is very, very important. So you basically building a proof of concept, which is very, very important for any freelancer, any person who's using LinkedIn to sort of get clients, even life coaches and founders. It's very, very important that you don't turn away anyone who tells you that they don't have money. Sorry, a lot of background noise is really, really affecting my ability to focus and really tell you what I actually think. So be very, very, don't turn away someone who doesn't have money. Take it as an opportunity to help them for free. Take a testimonial from them. Take a testimonial. Also, like I said, document your journey of helping them, because then you start building momentum, and you start building proof of concept. And if you can also talk to them about, if I help you in 30 days and you actually get XYZ results, then would it be possible that we could talk a payment structure? So it's very, very important that you don't turn away any prospects, especially if you're in the beginning phase of your LinkedIn journey of selling your service or products or whatever it may be. So don't turn away any prospects. So, well, I also did that quite a while ago, but I wasn't aware of the information that I am aware of now, and I do regret not doing a mini documentary of helping my, the clients that I've helped for free. So be very be very wary of turning people away. There's a lot of opportunities that come from people who might not have money now, but don't discount them, in the near future. Think long term with every prospect or every ideal client that you want to target. So on that, I do encourage you not to turn away your prospects or anyone who is, and also it's not always about the money, if I might say. So, oh, sorry. They're quite loud outside. So what I do encourage you to do is, so if you are someone who is, oh, okay, this person is loud outside and it's really frustrating me. So this live has been chaotic today. But like I said, I do want to be consistent. I'm not necessarily going to be sharing this with anyone, considering how loud it's been outside, the people talking, the running water, and everything. But what I will tell you is, if you find yourself turning a lot of prospects away, you're putting a lot of emphasis on someone actually saying, hey, let's work together, when they don't know what you do or they don't necessarily have a proof of concept that you can get them X, Y, and Z results. So it's very, very important that you do take people who don't necessarily have money in the beginning, but they do have time. So one of the things that I usually ask my prospects whenever I have a conversation with them is that, money aside, does this feel like something that you would be open to doing? And if it's a yes, then it's every other answer that you would. It's the perfect answer, if I might say, because then this person has time, this person has commitment, and this person is in dire need of help. So don't turn them away just because they might not have the money right now. Don't turn your prospects away because they don't have the money right now. Get them to commit to something else, and if you do get them X, Y, and Z results, also, and because what I want you to do essentially is put your mouth where your money is, or put your money where your mouth is, basically. So if you're gonna charge a lot of money, at least show them that you can get them XYZ results, in a short period of time. So with that being said, be very, very wary of, the type of content you're posting, how you're reaching out to them. Also, don't turn away your prospects. It's very, very important. I see that someone joined and left. Please do join. Please do ask me any questions that you might have. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'm gonna be here for at least another 10 minutes. So for any life coaches that are out there and any founders who are posting a lot of content, and you're reaching out to a lot of people, I do encourage you to start posting content on LinkedIn. So if you're not posting content, start now, because there's never a better time to build your personal brand or an audience. The longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes, because LinkedIn isn't a standstill platform. LinkedIn doesn't sit there and say, well, if someone decides to join in 10 years' time, then you're more than welcome, and the ability to build a platform, well, an audience, is always going to be there. So I do encourage you, if you're someone that's new on LinkedIn, you're a life coach, you're a founder, do get started, create your content. you know there's never a better time to build a personal brand or an audience. Don't just sit there and think LinkedIn is going to be the same forever. LinkedIn has changed its algorithm just a few months ago, and even people who are posting content and are consistent, and even the big creators are talking about how their reach has declined, how their content has declined. And it's a very, very frustrating thing. But sometimes it might affect their sales, it might affect their LinkedIn impressions, their all these things that they find quite valuable. So yeah, there's never a better time to build your audience. There's never a better time to build your your personal brand. There's never a better time. There just isn't. So yeah, if you have any questions, please do let me know in the comments. What you might want to ask me, and yeah. Also, if you're interested in joining my waiting list for my content services, then please do let me know so that I can send you a job form that you can complete so I can get a simple understanding of, what do you want to do on LinkedIn, how we're going to structure your content and many of these other things. So if you're interested in, getting my help, then please do complete the form that I will be putting in the description rather than, asking you to sort of reach out, which probably won't happen because people are very very busy. But I do encourage you that if you are interested in getting my help, then please do check the link in the description and you can join my waiting list. And I do offer a lot of discounts and a lot of perks that come with people who join my waiting list. So yeah, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. And it's and one of the very very frustrating things is that it's gone awfully quiet the minute that I start running out of ideas and things that I want to talk about. You know, so yeah, I think we've covered everything. I don't wanna necessarily go on any longer because I don't necessarily have anything else to talk about. But yeah, if you like this video, please do leave a comment, do leave a like. Let us know what you found valuable. I do stress that whatever background noise that you heard before, it's not gonna happen again. And yeah, yeah, I'll see you guys very very soon, and thank you.